All right, let's do it.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good day, everyone. This is Dave Mangham from A2K Technologies, and I'd like to thank you for joining us on this webinar to give you an overview of ClashMEP from Building SP. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Brendan Upton to run through the demonstration. And once again, thanks for joining us. Over to you, Brendan.
Okay, so thanks very much, Dave. I'll just show my screen there. Alrighty, so thanks, thanks, Dave. So today's webinar is going to take you guys through a demonstration of this new Revit tool that's called ClashMEP. So we want to take you through some of the features and the functionality of this tool, and hopefully we can generate some interest and some good Q&A time at the end. So just to go through a couple of really quick slides and just a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning. So that's us. So Brendan Upton is my name. I'm the senior MEP technical consultant here at A2K, and Dave Mangham, who you just heard, my colleague, is the senior MEP solutions consultant. So the two of us pretty much make up the MEP team in consulting for A2K. I'm sure the both of us have met a fair few of you on the line already. So if we haven't, we hope to meet you soon. So that's us. I also wanted to just quickly make mention of Brett on the screen there. You can see Brett Young. So he's the developer. The developers building SP are the developers that have created this tool. We as in A2K have partnered with Building SP to work with this tool and to promote it out there for you guys. So Brett's actually on the line today. He's listening in on this webinar, and he's going to be closely monitoring the questions that come through, and we'll make every effort to follow up on all of the queries that come through after this webinar for those that we perhaps don't get to answer live at the end. So a little bit about I think it's probably worth mentioning that sort of text there on the screen with regards to the purpose and the mission of Building SP. It's already a proven software in our industry, in the architecture and engineering and construction industry. And Building SP's mission is to change the industry into using these kind of system-based design tools and the like to aid in day-to-day design work, basically. All right, so moving along, ClashMEP, if you're not already aware, just a quick summary of basically what it is. It's basically, in short, a real-time clash detection tool that works inside of Revit as an add-in inside of Revit. It's real-time, and it will clash elements. There's a few different ways, but mainly will clash elements on the fly as you're modeling. It will work. One of the key points there is to mention that it will work on not only Revit objects and elements inside your model that you're working on, but it will also clash against linked files. It'll clash against IFC linked files, and also point clouds as well. So basically, in short, the main explanation of the tool is that it integrates clash detection into your modeling workflows by providing real-time visual identification and reporting of clashes within Revit, so within the Revit window. And so through this demonstration, I'm hopefully going to be able to show you that in action, show you how we can actually report that stuff out live in Revit. It kind of starting to eliminate the need for you in the first instance to be having to go out to separate programs, say like Navisworks and Celebri, at the beginning stages of a project. It can help you to drastically reduce those clashes in your designs moving forward. All right, so just some quick things to mention, and then I'm going to jump into a live demo here. Is that this webinar was I believe it's come to you as an hour long. We don't intend to take a full hour. We understand your time is is important. So we want to try and keep this actually down to about half an hour, and we'll have a quick Q&A session at the end as well. So just be aware of that. Any questions? Just quickly, any questions? If I can get you guys to type them into the chat window inside of your into your webinar panel there. If you type those in, we'll do our best to pick a few and try and answer them live at the end. And then, as I said, any others we'll follow up after this webinar. And basically, just as a heads up, I'm going to be demonstrating here live inside of a collaboration for Revit environment. So myself and Dave are inside the same model. You'll see in a sec. And we're going to be demonstrating the Clash for Teams environment through that interface as well, using the ClashMEP tool. So just a warning, hopefully all the syncing will go well, but there might be a little bit of a wait time while we sync a few things here and there. But with that said, let's jump into the live demo. So I'm going to jump out of PowerPoint here, and I'm going to jump over into Revit to begin with. So I've got a model here open. The model that we're using here is in fact the BIMEP Oz sample model. Some of you guys, again, might be aware of this model or used it in the past. So this is the model we're going to use here as the example. I'm going to jump into a 3D view here to begin with. This level 2 3D view. I've set up this view purposefully to show this tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize my window here. Okay. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, the first thing that you'll notice is that the ClashMEP tool, it is an add-in for Revit, so you will find it up on the add-ins tab inside of Revit. So here it is here. So this is the menu, if you like, for the tool. So I want to take you through the main items here, and I'll kind of take you through a bit of a workflow, sort of the steps that the order that you would pretty much be working with it in. So the first thing that we pretty much want to do is we navigate to a 3D view, and we come down here and we initialize the clash detection. So that basically will initialize the tool and set it up so that it'll be active within the views that you have open. Okay. Now you should hopefully have seen there that what's happened is I've got a clash window down the bottom of my screen that's now reporting some clashes in this ClashMEP control center. Now, because this is firstly a collaboration for Revit setup project with multiple users in it, and also because I'm using the Clash for Teams tool, ClashMEP Teams for Teams tool, you'll notice here if I scroll down through these clashes that it's not only reporting, it's basically populated my window here with clashes that are currently in this model, but not only is it showing the clashes that I have created, it's also displaying clashes from other users that have been working in this model. You'll see Dave's name there, who you just heard earlier. So Dave's in this model at the moment. He's got some clashes happening. We've also got Brett and Ben from Building SP. They've been working in this model as well. So you can see that I can even sort, if I click on the head title there, I can sort these clashes by the user. Okay, so without me even doing anything in this environment, I've downloaded and added some clashes in this, populated some clashes in this window because I'm in this Teams environment. Okay, all right. So that's the first thing we do. So we've initialized the tool. So the tool is active now. It's displaying clashes already. Okay. If we come down now, and what I'll do now is I'll create some clashes now on the fly. Okay. The most effective way to use this tool is to basically have it set up so it's clashing whilst you're modeling. So you're getting sort of real-time feedback. Okay. There's a few other ways that you can clash, but we'll come to that in a sec. Okay. So if I just simply demonstrate to begin with some clashes here. All right, so let's just say I'm going to right click and say create similar. I'll do a really basic clash here. I'm going to draw a bit of duct that's basically going to go at the same level as that first one that I picked there, cross through it at perpendicular. Okay, and you can see that I've now got, not only has my clash window updated with an additional clash there now, Okay, and you can see it's highlight when I select that bit of duct, it's highlighting in the clash window here, telling me not only that it's myself that's created that clash, but it's telling me it's got other information as to what are the elements that are clashing, and what level it's on, etc. So there's a few other bits of information that get reported there. Okay, now what you'll see visually is happening here on the screen. If I zoom in, you'll see that the clashes actually get highlighted with this mesh. Okay, it's set to a default color of red. That can be that color can be changed, but there's a mesh there that basically will appear to show you where the clashes are happening visually. Okay, so if I have a little bit of a zoom around here now that you've kind of seen that, you'll start to notice that there's these meshes appearing where all these other clashes are happening. Okay, throughout the model. So you can see there's some cable tray here running through certain elements, and it's highlighting with that mesh. Okay, now there is a feature in, or there is a warning in with the tool that prompts you, if you don't have it already, that prompts you to set your view to a transparency so that you can see these meshes a bit easier. Okay, so basically what you can do, and I've already got it set to a transparency, this view, and that's why I'm kind of seeing these meshes. What you can actually do is, if you go to your visual style in your Revit view and you go to the graphic display options, you can see here that I've set a transparency here for this view to be 30%. Okay, now you don't have to set that transparency. It just makes it a bit easier to see the clashes if you want to be able to see those clashes visually. Okay, all right, so that's basically how that works. Okay. Some of the other features that we can have a look at here whilst we've got this open. Okay, so the Clash window itself that you're seeing here at the bottom, it's actually called the Clash MEP Control Center. Okay, that can be toggled on and off. Okay, so within the Clash MEP menu, at the very bottom, you've got an option to toggle the control center on and off. So if I click that off, it'll actually turn that window off. However, the clashes are still there. They're still being recorded in the model. They're just not being reported in the control center. So you can toggle that window on and off. It's a dockable window, works quite nicely. It pretty much behaves as just like the Revit default properties or the project browser in Revit. It's a dockable window just like those. Okay, so you can have it floating on another screen, or you can dock it as I'm doing here to the top of the side. If you're using dual monitors, obviously you probably put that out to the second screen like you do with your properties and your project browser generally. So that's the control center. There's a few other little features inside of the control center here that is worth pointing out. So firstly, you might have noticed that, let's go back to that clash that I just put in earlier. There's this little bit of duct here. If I select that duct, you'll see that in the clash window, it goes in the control center, it highlights and goes to that and highlights that row, those rows that are reporting those clashes. So I can see straight away it's a bit of duct clashing with a duct, and there's also some duct lining in there as well that's reporting out too. Okay, so we can do that. If I click on some other things here, you'll see as I selected a piece of cable tray there. Now it's now highlighting in the control center those applicable clashes, and I can quickly go and see, well, who was that? Okay, so that was Dave that was responsible for that clash. I need to go and have a communication with him, or action this. Okay. The other thing that you can do is, this is similar to some other programs that allow you to zoom into areas. If I just zoom out for a sec, okay, if I select, let's say I select that one there. If I click on the zoom to clash button here over on the left-hand side of the control center, you'll see that it'll straight away, in the view that I am in, it'll zoom to that clash and basically center it on the screen so that I can then interrogate it a bit further and see what's going on. Oh, yep, it's a pipe going through a bit of duct here, so I've got an issue with that. That needs to be resolved, etc. So you've got these zoom to clash buttons in here as well. Okay. You've also got inside of the control center window, clashes displayed. You've got some options for what clashes are displayed at any time. Okay, so what you can do with that is, you'll notice there's 3 options: all, last, or none. So you can basically display all the clashes as you're modeling, as you're working. including obviously in this case the clashes from other users that are inside this model. Okay. Last will allow you to show the clashes from the last modeled, from the last operation, from the last iteration to the model, and none obviously will show you none at all. So you've got different options there. Sometimes if you've got many clashes and you don't want to, you want to sort of filter it out a little bit, you've got an option to just show the last clashes on the fly. So as you're modeling, it'll just show those current ones. Okay. Okay. So the other thing, some of the other options that you've got in here, let's just go back to the ClashMEP menu here and just have a little bit of a look at some of these options here. So you've got some options within Revit here to choose or select which categories you actually want to clash. Okay, so you may not want to clash everything. You might want to sort of narrow this down a bit. So if you click into the select categories to clash, it opens up a window that allows you to select the Revit categories that you want to be included in the clash. So at the moment, I've kind of turned off a few here. I've pretty much got, as you can see, mainly all the MEP, all the services elements, or services categories selected. Okay, I'm not at the moment clashing with, architectural or structural elements to a great extent. There's a few structural elements in there, but mainly it's the duct and the pipe and tray, etc. Okay, so you can set that up in your session, and then in your control center, once you start initializing the clash again, it'll show you, it'll only show up those clashes and report those clashes as your total number. Okay. Something to mention on that, this is probably a good time to mention the linked files. Okay. So at the moment, this model that we're looking at here, it's a, let me just jump back in here. Okay. All right. Okay, so let me just jump back in here. At the moment, this is a model that is a duct layout over a linked architectural model. Okay, so this is a linked architectural model that we have in the background here. Just to demonstrate how this tool, just to kind of show how this tool will work on linked elements, let's go back into the select categories to clash option. If I turn on walls, for example, so let's tick on the walls category, click OK. This will now prompt me to run that initialize clash button again. So I'll do that, click OK, jump up to the ClashMEP tool, initialize clash detection. We should notice that it'll do its thing, and that number here in the clash control center should go up in a sec. Okay, so you see it's gone from 98 to 125. And if I zoom in to where you can see these, it's now showing up these clashes with the walls. Okay, they're linked elements. Those walls are in that linked architectural model, but you can see it's actually showing those clashes between the cable tray and the wall. And in fact, if I select that cable tray, you can see in the control center here that it's telling me it's a tray clashing with a wall. Okay, and that was one of my clashes. Okay. So that's just to show you that it definitely works with linked files. It's the same with if you've got an IC file in there, or even, as a matter of fact, a point cloud as well, if you're working with point cloud files. Okay. All right, so moving along, a couple more quick features I just want to show you here, and then we'll jump out and I'll just show you a few extra things outside of Revit. Okay. All right, so just quickly, you've got a import-export feature here as well. So you can actually export clashes out as a XML file out of Revit, and you can then in one project, and then you can, in the same project obviously, you can then import that file back in. So for example, if you cleared the clashes and you wanted to bring those clashes back again from another user that's on this same project, you could grab their export XML file and import those back in again. Okay, so you've got options around that area as well to keep in mind. Okay, there are some configuration tools here. So this is where you can change things like the color of the mesh that shows up, highlighting the clashes. There is an interesting option here as well that's been added recently by Brett and the guys there and the developers at Building SP, this silent mode. So you can actually turn that on and have your clashing happening and reporting, but you don't have it visually showing up on the screen. So it can be being monitored outside of Revit, which I'm going to show you in a sec. Some of the ways you can do that, but it'll be kind of silent to the user. Okay, so there's some options around that as well. Some of the other quick things here. So just in terms of, I mentioned earlier that the most efficient way is to have this just running on the fly as you go. But you can come back and clash after the fact. So you've got some options here to clash by a selection that you set, or even select a route like a duct run, for example, and clash by that. So if I choose that clash by selection, I can do a window around an area, and then I click the finish button here, and it'll report for me those clashes in the window. So you can see it's added those to the total, okay, that are not the current sort of active clashes. All right, so you do have some options in there. However, we can't recommend at this stage, that the most efficient way is to just enable the tool and run it while you're clashing, particularly in an environment like this where you're working with multiple users. But you do have some options there. Okay, I can clear the clashes, which takes it back. If I then initialize again, you'll see that it'll repopulate the control center, as you can see. Okay, and it's gone back to those active current clashes, as you can see. Okay. Okay. So that's probably enough on inside of Revit. So being aware of the time here, I'll keep moving here. What I want to show you now is I want to show you a couple of options outside of Revit here. Okay. So I wanted to show you. Let me just close that out. I wanted to show you, first of all, something that's called the ClashMEP App. Okay, so this, I'm just going to open up this ClashMEP app here. Okay, so this is called the ClashMEP App. This is a separate piece of software, a little application that Building SP have created that works in conjunction with the ClashMEP tool. It basically allows you to review and your clashes, the data of your clashes, much like you do in the control center within Revit, but it then gives you a bit more further functionality for filtering out clashes and setting by category and sort of being able to narrow them down, that you allowing you to kind of drill in on certain areas. So for example, I'm logged in here at the moment. I've got this project running here. You can see that it's reporting for me all the clashes. If I kind of scroll over, you can see who they're assigned to. Okay, so there's a number of us there. I can start to do things like, well, just show me the clashes that are Ben's clashes. Okay, if I apply that, it then narrows all those clashes now down to Ben's clashes. Okay, so I can start to review those out. Okay. One thing that you'll notice is that it gives you the element ID here as well. So that's an important feature. With that element ID, you can use that to go back inside of Revit to search for and act on elements based on their ID number. You can find those clashes. Okay, so that's probably similar to something you might have done with other clashing with Navisworks operations and things like that. Going back inside of your Revit model. So it'll give you that information as well. Gives you a date and time stamp as well. Gives you things like the level and whatnot as well, and the room name if applicable. Okay. So it's giving you information there. I can start to do things like, if I set that back to all, just as a heads up, I can set by category. So just show me the duct clashes, apply, and that will filter those down. So it's telling me how many clashes it's showing me out of the total as well. Okay, so you've got some filter options here. So this is just one option. This is something that Building SP are continuing to develop. We've been fortunate enough to, obviously we've partnered with Building SP to promote this product, but we've been fortunate enough to have a fairly close dialogue, communication line with Brett and the guys there, almost on a daily basis at the moment. Giving them feedback from users like yourself that are testing the tool and using the tool and just making it even better than it already is, basically. Definitely, the app is being heavily developed at the moment. A lot of new features coming through at the moment. Okay. Building SP are very active in answering and questions and on feedback and requests and whatnot, which has been a really great thing. All right, so this is the ClashMEP app. The last thing I wanted to show you was on the analytical side of the tool. Building SP have developed a way that we can use Microsoft they can use Microsoft Power BI, which some of you may be familiar with, to basically set up a graphical interface, so like a dashboard, if you like, of your Clash information. Okay, so in the background, it's showing you the Clash data, just like we were looking at in the other tables, but it's then showing it to you in a customized graphical format. So, for example, if I have a look at this one here, you can see there's 4 tabs down the bottom here. Okay, if you can see those. The first one here is the kind of like the title page, the title tab, which is the Clash summary. It's got the total number of clashes at the moment. It's got, you know, a date range that you can start to look at. It's even got the users here that you can see are in the model. Now, if I just do a refresh on this, you'll see that Dave has actually been modeling and creating some clashes in the background as I've been talking. So if I do a refresh on my data here, okay, it hopefully won't take too long. You can see that David's name has now appeared in the list here, and over on the right as well. Okay, so he's the yellow, color-coded yellow. So in these kind of pie charts here, you can see that there's some of the clashes that he's responsible for. So for some duct insulation elements there, and if it goes to clashes by room, he's obviously been working around in the laboratory room there, okay, because you can see that's where the yellow is, okay. And you can start to manipulate this data as well, okay. So I can start to click on you know, the individual names in the list here on the right, and you'll see that the data will shift and change to show only you know, reporting out just for that user. Okay, so I can do things like that. If I click back on the total again, it'll show me you know, the total times there. If I change the date range, you know, it'll start to manipulate. And I've got a slider bar here. It'll start to manipulate that data. Okay, so it's quite a powerful tool. I'm sure you can kind of see, you know, starting to think of potentials for this. You can be monitoring the health of your model of the project as it's on the fly, basically, as it's going, right? So a few of the other tabs here, this is just some examples, but this can be pretty much customized to how you want. Okay, so this tab's showing us you know, honing in on the duct clashes, so giving us some information by the trades, clashing, how the ducts are being clashed, where they're being clashed, what rooms. Okay, you know, if you think about it, we could break this up into, you know, tabs for different each discipline to hone in on those as well. The next one is quite a powerful tab as well because it's showing us, you know, elements. It's showing us, you know, the clashes per operation. So operations by category, operations by type, and number of operations on each element. Okay, so you can again play around with this by, you know, manipulating the data and you know, adjusting the date ranges and whatnot. So you can really get a glimpse of what's happening in your model. The last one there is clashes by room. Okay. So this is something, as I said, this is something that can be used in conjunction with the tool. This is something that, you know, can be customized to your requirements. And this is something that we can, in conjunction with you know, Brett and the guys at Building SP, can help to customize this interface for you. This is something that you could see to be valuable. We're getting a lot of interest particularly on this area with you know, with current demos that we've been running. A lot of interest around using a tool like this to you know, monitor projects in real time. Okay, all right, so that is pretty much brings me to the end of the live demonstration. I hope we pretty much bang on time there, which is good. I guess we want to give you guys an opportunity to you know, just spend a few minutes here and maybe get a few questions answered if you have any. If you've got any questions, please feel free to write them into the chat area. I might just, Dave, if you're there, have there been any questions coming through that you've seen whilst we've been on the webinar?
Yep, we've had a question. What is the system type of the ClashMEP? And the answer to that is it's a Revit Analytics mesh. It's not actually a system family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we've also had another question just come in. Do you need to have rooms/spaces set up within the MEP model, or it can pick up the clash with MEP elements versus room element from arch linked files. And so there's no need for rooms or spaces, basically.
Yeah, it can still run, yeah, without those elements in there, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
That's from Michael.
So yeah, please feel free to, if you've got any further questions, reach out to us if you want to quickly get one in now. Otherwise, we'll definitely follow up on any questions that come through after this webinar. As I mentioned, we've got Brett closely monitoring as well, and so he'll be able to assist us in answering your questions. And even if you've got ideas and suggestions and feedback, that we want to, Brett's made it clear to us that their Building SP are very keen to keep making the tool even better and better. So so let us know. Let us know your thoughts. Are there any other questions there at the minute, Dave?
Can the Michael just sent one through? Can the clash elements be grouped like Navis works?
They, inside of Revit itself, I believe, I'll answer as to what I know, and certainly we can follow this one up with Brett afterwards, but from what I understand, in the Revit environment itself, at this point in time, you can't necessarily group those, but with using something like that, the Clash Manager app or some other tools outside that, you can start to filter out and group some tools there. So I guess short answer is it won't look exactly like grouping in Navis at the minute. But there's ways around it you could achieve the same result. So hopefully that answers that question in the short term. We'll certainly get some more information about that.
Yeah, Brett's just come back and said they're working on prioritization.
Okay.
Currently working on prioritization. Yeah.
Okay.
And the room name groups as well.
Okay.
So Ken's come back with a sort by a column. Yes, that's one way of doing it. Sort by column.
Sort by column. Yeah. Yep. So in the window, you could, as you saw me before, I was clicking on the header columns here to sort. So that's one way that you could do it potentially, both in here and inside of the Clash Manager app as well potentially.
And just a heads up, at the developers and Brett just said that they'll be using the new graphics engine in Revit 18 very soon, so there'll be a big performance increase as well.
Excellent, it's great news. All right. Well, unless there's any other questions there, Dave. As I mentioned, we know, obviously we understand people's time's critical, so we don't want to take up more than necessary. Unless there's any other questions, we might leave it at that. But definitely reach out to us. There's some contact details on the screen there. Definitely reach out to us if you've got any questions. We're happy to do a one-on-one demo, even come and see you at your office and show your colleagues if you're interested at all. So just reach out to us, Dave or myself, or and we'll follow up with you.
Yeah, and we're also looking at any user interface feedback on the Clash Control Center. So if you've got any suggestions or requests on improvements in the on the UI, then please reach out to us and let us know.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, with that said, thanks very much, everyone, for attending. We appreciate your time and taking the time to view this. Hopefully, we'll be in touch soon. And yeah, all the best.